with oppression and injustice on most, if not all, non-white male Americans raging through America. Every classroom had segregation between colored and uncolored Americans. Buses were segregated, and many marches and huge movements were coming into Americans with new change. Things only got worse for African Americans with the Jim Crow laws, pushing segregation, denying them rights to vote, get a job, and even get an education. Those who attempted to go against the Jim Crow laws were arrested, fined, sent to jail, threatened with violence, and even faced with death. African Americans were banned from parks, theaters, restaurants, buses, and even public area or transportations were segregated. It didn't matter if you were dead or alive. If you were different from white males, Americans, you were segregated. However, this was all about to change, with President Franklin D. Roosevelt issuing an executive order which opened jobs for the national defense to African Americans. At this time, the only jobs that were open to most African Americans was in the military. They became Husky, airmen, and women. But when they got into the military to have jobs, there was still a lot of discrimination towards them in the military. With all parts of the United States facing segregation and oppression, the men and women of America were making a change while recovering from the stock market crash. With major influences like Claudette Colvin, a 15-year-old girl who went to Montgomery, Alabama, refused to give up her seat on the bus 9 months before Rosa Parks did. Claudette Colvin was a young civil rights activist. She was a part of the NAACP Youth Council. Rosa Parks was the secretary in the same council that Claudette was in. When Claudette was arrested for refusing to give up her seat, they found out that Claudette was pregnant. They feared that Claudette was not the person to be a significant figure in the civil rights movement. On the contrary, when Rosa Parks refused to give up her seat and was arrested, she was the person they considered the figure of the movement. Even though the protests were civil disobedience, some people, however, thought that they were still not. So African Americans were taken by police for protesting peacefully. With the help of MLK and his speech, he demonstrates resilience and made an impactful change for history.
Be able to join hands and sing in the words of the old spiritual, free at last, free at last.